guys, it's Emily, and today I wanted to do a brief discussion about the concept of a TBR and my thoughts on my TBR and what the best way to make a TBR is. And so I just want to start out by saying, when I say TBR, I mean every book that I want to read, every book that's on my Goodreads to reads list. A lot of people here on BookTube seem to mean TBR. When I say TBR, they mean only the books they physically own or ebooks that they own and that they haven't read. So like to them, this bookshelf back here would be my TBR because those are all the books I own that I haven't read. But to me, every book that I want to read that's on my Goodreads want to read list is my TBR. So just so you know that going out. So I've always had sort of a back and forth situation with my TBR. Ever since I started really getting into adding books to my Goodreads TBR back in 2014, I've always debated whether that's a good way for me to keep track of what I want to read or not, because I always get stressed out when my TBR gets bigger than like a preconceived number. So it used to always be my TBR was too big if it was over 150 books. But lately it's been getting up into like 175. I think right now it's at like 172. So I've sort of set 200 as my number. I'm like, that's too big, I need to cull it. And, you know, when I tell people out in the real world that I have like 170 books on my that I want to read, they're like, oh, so surprised that like, hey, there's that many books I want to read and that I've kept track of all those books. And so because this number, the TBR number stresses me out, I feel like I can't read things that aren't on my TBR, or I feel bad if I start reading things that aren't on my TBR. And then even recently I've sort of been reading books that are the newest additions to my TBR, and so then I feel guilty that I haven't gone back and read like things that have been on my TBR for a long time. The earliest book that's been on my TBR the longest is January 12, 2014. That's like the day I got really into Goodreads, and I added a whole bunch of books that day, and so there's about like 12 books that I added on January 12, 2014 that I've never gotten around to reading. So I've gone back and forth about the idea of deleting my TBR so that I can pick up books that I want to read when I want to read them and not add them to the TBR and be trying to focus on earlier books or, you know, reading things that aren't on my TBR. But then I do want to read all these books, and so I'm like, well, if I delete them, I'll forget what I want to read, and then I'll miss out on some good books. And then I'm like, well, if I delete them and then I forget about them, you know, I'm not going to remember, and so I must not really want to read them. And so I always have this dilemma about whether or not I should delete my TBR, because this number thing is stressing me out. And so lately what I've been doing is I use the Litzy app, and the Litzy app has a to-read list feature, and it doesn't number the books you put on there, and so you don't know how many books you've had on there. So a few weeks ago on a Friday night, I went through and added every single book that was on my Goodreads TBR to my Litzy TBR. And then since then, I've been adding new books. Every time I hear about a book I want to read, I've been putting it on my Litzy TBR and not on my Goodreads. And so I have been thinking that maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe I should like delete my Goodreads TBR and then only use the Litzy TBR. But I do like seeing, like, when I pick up an older book, how long it takes me to get there. Because, like, for example, I just finished reading The Real Thing by McCarthy, and that's been on my TBR since May of 2015. And so it made me feel really good to check it off. And, you know, hey, I finally got to this after 3 years of it being on my TBR. So if I deleted all those books, I wouldn't have that satisfaction of knowing I got to an older book. But again, I would also not have the stress of knowing I have 172 books that I have to read. I shouldn't be picking new things up. So anywho, I just wanted to get my thoughts out there, and I wanted to see what y'all think. I mean, just y'all's TBR stress you out. I mean, I know logically I'm never gonna read all the books that I really want to read, and I'm gonna die within a stack of unread books on my TBR, either that TBR and my Goodreads TBR. So really, I should not be worrying about having these 172 books or whatever on my TBR and reading things that are on my TBR and picking up newer books that I just added versus longer books. It doesn't hurt the books' feelings if I don't get to them, especially since most of them I don't own. This stack right here is only 70 books. So that means there's 100 other books on my TBR that are at the library or that I would have to get through interlibrary loan or whatever. And so it's sort of like, if books are an inanimate object, and also, I read for fun. I mean, yes, I'm a librarian, and I should know what's coming out, but I don't have to read all those books, just, being aware of them through, like, reading Book Page and reading Entertainment Weekly and reading, reviews and things like that. I don't have to read all of the new releases, and I don't. I mean, y'all know I very rarely read a brand new release when it's, really hot on BookTube. I tend to be that person that reads it like 2 years after it got really famous because I'm not into the hyped books. So, anywho, I guess I'm just trying to tell y'all my thoughts, and I'm trying to decide whether or not I should delete my Goodreads TBR and just stick to the Litzy TBR, or if I just need to get over it, and whether you have any tips on getting over this, like, I don't want my TBR to get big because it stresses me out feeling that I have. So let's discuss, do y'all have any thoughts about your TBR? Does it stress you out? Do you have a way to manage it? I mean, I know some people go through and cull their TBRs, and I have done that before. I first joined Goodreads in 2012, and for a while, there were some books on my TBR that I had added right when I first joined, and I ended up getting rid of those because I figured if I hadn't read them in 4 or 5 years, I wasn't going to get to them. And so then I'm thinking, well, next year in 2019, it'll have been 5 years since I added the 2014 books, so maybe I should just get rid of the 2014 books, regardless of whether I've read them, or maybe I should make it a focus to read the books I added in 2014 next year. And I would also like to make it a focus to read these physical books next year as well, maybe. But I also really like to mood read, and I don't like to be so constrained, which is why I've been picking stuff up that's not on my TBR or that I just added. So anyhow, let me know your thoughts about TBRs, how you manage yours, whether it stresses you out, any advice you have. Let's just talk TBRs. Thanks y'all for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!